we're going to go ahead and get kicked off. Wowie made a great suggestion in chat that today's AMA is actually all about Baldur's Gate 3. Pretty supportive of it. But outside of that, we figured we would talk about DeFi Kingdoms a little bit. Just to note, we do not have Dreamer today. He is having some electricity issues, so he will not be able to join us today, unfortunately. But we hope to have him back next week, ideally. So we are going to go ahead and get kicked off. And we thought this week we would start off by letting Beetle Dude talk about the patch that he just released.
Huzzah! I did it. Yeah. Apologies. I apologized in the chat, but I'll also apologize here in real life. That my microphone sucks so bad. But yeah, let's see the patch that we just pushed out. It's been a long time coming because I've always wanted to remove the wallet connection requirement to access the game site, and it's going to help us with a ton of cool stuff coming in the future. Particularly exciting on the onboarding side of things, just letting new users interact with the site before they connect, because connecting or creating a wallet if you don't have one is a pretty involved step if you've never done it before, or just connecting to a site that you're not 100% sure about yet. So I'm really excited. I think it should open up a lot of doors to folks in that category, but also allow us. I think this might be the first time that you're able to access the game site through just a standard mobile browser like Safari, which, although it would not be very useful for very long, it is another opportunity for people to view the site without having to log in or create a wallet. Really excited about that. And then I guess I'll just mention. I think I mentioned some of the things that'll help with, like marketing site links, taking people directly to in-game features without needing to log in. We've talked about possibly having some demos of things in the future, which maybe wouldn't require a wallet connection. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to drop too much alpha. Bolan's probably so mad at me right now. But yeah, there's just quite a few items that are in progress right now that will benefit from that feature. So maybe not as exciting on its own, but exciting in the things that it will enable us to do in the future. And then the other half of the patch was the power-up updates and primarily quality of life improvements, which was kind of a tag team between several different departments. I know API with Pinecone, Magnus, and Typical kind of took the lead on that setup. And it should just kind of make things a lot smoother in areas where people are managing their heroes for power-ups, and a few other areas as well. I didn't have as much involvement with that one, so if there's anything super exciting that I'm missing, feel free to pipe up. Maybe somebody knows more about it than I do, but just should make the process a whole lot smoother than it has been. So those are the main things for me. I know there's more exciting stuff to be talked about next, so I'll let them do it. Take it away, Bolan.
For the record, I was much angrier that people use Safari. That was the one that really got me. I look at Safari as just Apple's Internet Explorer. There's just so many better options. Anyway,
basically.
Don't use Safari. That's Bolon advice. So we are actually going to grab a question to lead into our next update. Can we elaborate on the next DFK duel and what changes might happen?
Oh, that's me. All right. Yes, we need to share some more alpha on this one, I believe. First of all, everyone's asking like when duel, when duel. I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time. We're getting really close with our QA and testing processes that we've got. And we're in a very good spot right now. So I think it's very safe to say that next week is what we're targeting for that. So just FYI, that's when we can expect it. And then what is new? So I've kind of hinted a little bit in the past. I said some things about hills, and perhaps kings and things like that. But basically, we're calling this new feature a champion of duels, and there's probably some actual like term we're using for like the marketing side. So I'll let Bolon correct me on any of those things because they're the geniuses behind that. But basically, how it's going to work is we have this new concept of a player after they get to a certain rank, they can actually claim the champion title of that duel type. So, like solo, squad, and war will each have a duel champion slot for each of those that can be occupied by a team. So if it's like solo, there'll just be one hero there. If it's squad, there'll be three, and if it's war, there'll be nine. So it's like a team that you send basically. And then once you're the champion, other people can essentially can like challenge you to a like fight and have them win that title. So once they do that, and if they win, then it'll have like that player as the new champion from that time forward until someone else challenges and beats them back. So basically, it's sort of like a King of the Hill style thing there. Sachet has some screenshots that he can show since I'm explaining it now, anyways. And everything that is shown can change, just FYI. We're hard at work on some of those and sort of like trying to have it be a little bit more clear to the end user and explain how it works, and just also like quality of life things. So there's a lot of things that's been done already. There might be some more prior to it being released. But basically, that's the whole new thing. Because in the past, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity to sort of directly compete against other people and have like bragging rights. I mean, like we have the leaderboard, which is great. But with this one, it's more of like, hey, I'm the champion, and I challenge everyone else to try to beat me. And I think that's just the sort of competition that I really love to see. So some questions. How do we ensure there's not just one player that just stays there the whole season and just kind of dominates, or if anybody knocks him out, they can immediately just re-challenge? So we had a lot of time that we spent in our committees about some of these problems, and how it'll work currently is if you have a team in there and you get knocked out, then you have to wait a certain amount of time prior to that team being able to re-challenge. So if you have other heroes, you can still re-challenge with those other heroes, but the previous champions can't re-challenge for Hubert. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a day or is it 3 days?
It's 3 days.
3 days. Okay. So the whole idea of that is to say like let's try to get more variety with what heroes are in there so that it's not necessarily always the best team out there that's a champion, but it's the current best team that's able to fight. So there'll be hopefully a lot of like rotating in there and things like that. What are some of the perks of like you being champion? How it's set up right now is you get a cut of the fees that are earned in profit for duels. So basically, if you are a champion, you get 5% of the profits, which is essentially after we've bought the raffle tickets, which we have to buy for like the winners, and after we've distributed, I think half of it to burn and things like that, and there's other things that it goes to. There's an amount that's left over that's like quote unquote profit. And so a cut of that will be distributed to the current champion, which I think is awesome. So that's a 5%. And then the challenges to become champion cost twice as much as the highest tier in each category. So for example, for solo, you can pay up to 1 crystal or jade to do a duel. For champion, you have to pay 2. For squad, I believe it's 5, and so it would be 10 for that one for the challenges for champion, and for war it's 10, so that would be 20 for the challenges there. And so those challenges, since they don't get raffle ticket rewards for those, there's actually a lot more profit to be split. Plus, we're planning on splitting, I think it was 50% of the challenge type duels to the current champion. So basically, when other people challenge you, you get a lot more from it than just like regular duels if you beat them. So you kind of want other people to come at you because that's probably where like most of the fees will be coming from that you'll be earning. So that's exciting and fun, I think. Shout out to, I think it was a combination of Hubert and Dreamer probably that thought up that one. Another really cool thing is how do we ensure that there's a lot of people that are trying to fight you? We added a bounty feature. So currently I think it's like 1% of the fees, or 1% of the profit from duels will be allocated to a bounty towards the current sitting champion. So basically, over time, there will be an increasing reward for anyone who's able to knock out that champion. If you just have a like really good team and it's just able to beat everyone who comes at you, then it'll be accruing like more and more there in the bounty, so that other people will say, hey, this is a really good opportunity for me to earn some bounty if I'm able to like knock out this champion. And so they'll get the bounty if they beat you, and then they will be the champion as well. So that's a added aspect of fun there, and shout out to Dreamer who thought up that one. So yeah, that's an overview. I'm sure there's things I'm missing. Let's see. Actually, yes, there are things I'm missing. So what are the requirements to challenge? Right now, the requirements are you have to have at least a score of 500. So that's to stop just random anybody immediately being able to challenge. So you have to at least be playing it a fair amount. That said, like, it's not that hard to hit 500. You could hit that in a day or two if you really wanted to. So that's high enough that it's able to weed out some people, but low enough that it's still very much a everyman's thing. So there's that, and then also how do you prevent players from just immediately like re-challenging if they fail? So just like hitting them over and over and over, basically back to back. We thought about that for a long time, and I think it was Hubert who came up with the idea to do a streak requirement. So you have to have a win streak in order to challenge, and if you lose the challenge, that'll break your win streak. So you have to then go and fight some regular duels to earn that streak back, and then you have the opportunity to challenge again. So that should help to prevent just spamming and stuff there. But basically, that will allow it to have more fairness. I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but the streak is set to 5, I believe, right now. So that's the win streak. So that encourages you to play just like regular duels, and to hit those streaks, and every time you hit those streaks, to then have your opportunity to see if you can challenge. So yeah, that's an overview. Hopefully that's exciting for people. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see some of the smack talk in over here in our Discord and things like that, and just sort of see what happens to it. And this is a experiment. We'll be seeing how it goes this season. And we might be tweaking it as we launch into our next season next time, but I think this will be a thing that will be here to stay. So I'm stoked about it, and I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
One clarification, because I saw a couple people mention it in chat. The fee sharing is real time, so it's not end of season. You get fee sharing.
Yes and no. It is real time, but you have to claim it. So
yes.
It will accrue to your balance. That was the thing that we added because some people don't want to have it hitting their like wallet all the time, like for accounting reasons and things like that. So you could just have it all accrue and then claim it whenever you want at the end of the season, or as often as you want. Or you could wait until next year to claim it if you wanted to. I don't know. It's up to you. It's yours, but it's not in your wallet until you claim it.
Yeah, and then your winnings are based on your time as champion. You are receiving fees for the duels fought while you are champion. So it does not accrue like the season as a whole and the final champion gets it or anything like that. It is the time that you are champion. So I'm going to try to recap that real quick, and Fox, just tell me if I got anything wrong. So champion feature, there can be up to, technically speaking, 6 different champions at a time, one for each mode in each realm. So Crystal Vale and Sarandale do have different champions, and then each mode has their own champion. Heroes become champions, that team becomes the champion. When they get dethroned, that team cannot re-challenge for champion for 72 hours. During the time that you are champion, you basically get a fee sharing, essentially. There's also a bounty that accumulates for somebody to claim when they knock out the champion. And yeah. There was a question in chat that Hubert answered, but it was good. Is what happens if multiple challenges are coming in kind of at the same time? They go in order. Once the current champion loses, the new player becomes champion and then immediately is fighting any remaining challenges. So it could change very rapidly between champions. Was all of that correct?
Yep, that is correct. You should be able to see a history too, so in case that happens, you'll see what happened. But yeah, if you win and someone else is in line to fight, like immediately after you, you fight them immediately, pretty much. So even in the same block at times, although that should probably be rare, I would think.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited for that. Very, very much looking forward to bringing that to y'all. That's the feature that we've been hinting at for a couple weeks, so glad to see it unveiled. And we're going to move into some questions now. We are actually going to make a change. We're going to have Beetle Dude Hour this week. And Beetle Dude Hour will consist of what are technically questions, but intended to be tasks for you to add to your never-ending to-do list. So I hope you're prepared. So the first one, any thoughts on having a travel to Sarandale option on the Sea Chain outpost?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think my original reaction was like, who's coming from Sea Chain? I don't see why not. It would make sense because we do have 2 realms, and technically they could go to either one. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. I'll have to take a look at how it's working as of right now. But yeah, that should be pretty doable, I think. I'm making the OK symbol with my hand. Yay.
Next one. So the Bazaar introduced the option to edit your order, and it basically, cancel and relist, but in one spot. Thoughts on having a lower price button on like hero listings and incorporating that in some other places?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. Maybe Fox has some input because I think it would require some contract items first. I'm gonna take a break from Beetle Hour.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot it was Beetle Hour. I was gonna just jump in. Um, no, it's true. That would take some smart contract work. We could just create a sort of like a additional like method that allows you to edit an order, which would actually just be uh, essentially canceling and then like re-adding that order, all in one transaction to save you having to do it with a bunch of clicks. So definitely something that's possible. We would just have to add it to our list, which has a lot of things on it. So we'll see where that stacks up.
Awesome.
We can just call this List Hour.
Yes, there we
On
go.
the list.
Speaking of the list, thoughts on being able to send multiple items from one account to another and batching that?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I guess we could maybe make that happen on the front end. I'll have to add it to the list. I was thinking for a second that it might be contract, but I assume it might be something we could do. Thoughts?
Yeah, there's some things to consider here. I think if we created a smart contract as an intermediary for this, we could get it to work. But the way ERC20s are currently set up is you'd have to approve it on a per ERC20 basis, and that would still be the case. And you'd have to now approve the intermediary contract instead of just the other player setting it to. So, yeah, I think it's possible to do, but it's definitely going to be change.
Cool.
Sounds like a good one for the list.
Yeah, just send me the list.
Let's see. I got one more for you, and then I'll give you a break. Thoughts on having a hero search function to the active quest section to easier find, like if you want to cancel to do a dark summon or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, and I think pretty straightforward to implement. So yes, approve it for the list.
While you're here, actually, I lied. There was one more question from chat. Starbuck asked, "How are you doing today?"
Oh yeah, I think I answered that I was multitasking because I read it and was talking at the same time. But yeah, overall, I'm doing great. I'm excited. I've been working on some fun stuff, so I've been doing good.
Nice. Always glad to hear it. All right, so we are going to continue on some questions, but we'll give Beetle Dude a break. Is the team considering Solana as the next chain? I would just say we're open to conversations with anybody and everybody, and we are always looking to make friends. Solana does not use Solidity, so there would be some added complexity if we were to look at going to Solana. That said, like I said, we're always looking to make friends and talk to people, and no decisions have been made past that. Sunbear, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you said it pretty well. We're just having conversations, like you said, with anybody who's really interested, and we have had a lot of conversations lately. And like we've said before, we do not take these decisions lightly. We do our due diligence, especially if we're going to be writing in some different code language. So, all part of the process and hedging forward with it.
Nice. All right. Hubert question. Anything relating to the slowdown in the skill codex releases? Is it deliberate or is there something behind it? Any thoughts you want to share there?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I guess there are a couple things. One is we've just been playing catch up with some of the other mechanics, and trying to get those implemented. So a lot of our focus has shifted there. We've been spending a lot of time thinking about equipment and thinking about those amulets everyone likes to talk about. So there will probably have some fun, exciting announcements for that in the future. Also, Workhorse has been out of the office for the past couple weeks, so it has also been slowed down there. Because usually in our processes, he'll do the initial drafts, and then kind of there's a back and forth between him and I before we finalize things. And there was kind of some pending things on Scholar, so. Yeah, it has taken a little bit longer. Apologies for that. We are working through things again now, so hopefully before too long we'll have something. But it also just depends on if the build doesn't feel quite right, we're gonna keep tweaking it until it does. So yep, those are the two reasons, and I am excited about the things that we have been focusing on instead as well. So more to come on that.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. There's a question: win more merch. I would say it's not something that we've forgotten about by any means, but it's also not one of our top focuses at the moment. We got a lot of stuff that we're working on, and so it is still there. We have not forgotten about it, definitely, but yeah, it's not our biggest priority to focus on at this exact moment. With expeditions next on the docket, some players may be able to combine their heroes into less wallets. However, they might have Sigil locked across multiple wallets. Any thoughts on doing a one-time reallocation if we could somehow verify same ownership? I have thoughts on that, but Fox, do you want to start that off, or you want me to? I don't care.
Yeah, first of all, I think we probably want to avoid any kind of manual processes. It's more of a centralized solution for something, and I don't really love that. Secondly, we are actually working on a way to allow for like delegation. So our jeweler already has some of that built into the smart contract side. Just around like delegation for voting power, which hasn't really been implemented right now in the front end or in our portal for voting, but it's something that we thought about when we were creating it. So there is some of that, and it's more geared towards voting right now and not towards like usage for accruing rewards or for power ups or things like that. But that was kind of our plan and our vision was to extend that to be able to be used for those types of things as well as opening up other use cases for Sigil power ups that could potentially see like third party power ups in the future. This is all stuff that I've sort of thought a lot about, but we don't have any clear or any, I guess I'll say like any like firm or final decision on what we want to do with it yet. So all this should be taken with a grain of salt. But the idea is to allow you to basically delegate another address to be able to have access to and like utilize your C Jewel or S Jewel. And that will be very useful, especially when we start to get to the point where we've got like multiple wallets that you might have to manage in our game. Some players might have a cold wallet that they use to store some of their assets like C Jewel and S Jewel and other types of things. But they might have another wallet that they use to play the game that's easier. For example, if you have like a hardware wallet, it's really hard to sign all those transactions when you're trying to quest. But if you were to have another wallet for that, then you could just basically store your C Jewel and S Jewel on your cold wallet, and then basically delegate that to your other wallets. And that's a thing that we've also considered for other assets too, like heroes and NFTs and things. I actually had a meeting yesterday with Halliday about some ideas from their side about how to address some of those as well, which I was really excited about. And speaking of Halliday, you know, that's another like reason we're looking at this again is because if you were to create a sort of Halliday like wallet account, the advantages of that is you can have sort of like a session where you basically sign in and you get like maybe 72 hours of like ID for a session that you're able to have transactions get sent without having to sign each individual transaction. So it's more of like a hot wallet setup, but it's a lot easier to play the game and to send quests and to do all kinds of stuff without having to have like the MetaMask thing every time having it ask for a signature. So situations like that would be really cool to say, hey, I've got all my assets that I care about in a very secure, safe uh, hardware cold storage wallet, and I'm going to basically delegate like access to those, but not full access. So access to sort of do quests and things, but not to like transfer things or to like withdraw my C Jewel or anything like that. So there's sort of like tiers of access that we're looking at there. So hopefully that made sense to people and it's not just me sort of like rambling, but that's where we're currently at with our thoughts on that.
Yeah. I would just add to it, Fox mentioned wanting to avoid verifying ownership, which is always true. But also, it's meant to be soulbound for a reason. And so, it would be a pretty major thing even on like an exceptions type of system to allow transfers. So that it would be a pretty disruptive thing. All right. Next question. Uh, Currently, there is a wallet that has a large portion of the circulating supply of Jewel. Do we maintain contact with such large holders, or have we attempted to contact them? In addition to the team, could we comment on token distribution / concentration in terms of if it's an issue or could be an issue for centralized exchange listing in the future? I'll just say on the first part, no, they're anonymous. They're as anonymous to us as they are to everybody else. We maintain contact with anybody that wants to have contact with us, but ultimately, we don't have any more information about them than anybody else does, and they have the same right to do whatever they please and have privacy. So no, we don't have a track of a wallet gets past this size. We try to reach out to them or anything like that. It's just not really how we operate, and how I think most people in Web3 operate is anonymity comes first. Sunbear, did you want to comment on the second part of that?
Yeah, I don't believe that's something that's come up with the centralized exchanges that we've been talking with or done applications for. And every single one has a different process of approval. It's pretty amazing how different it is. You probably heard Dreamer talk about that in the past. They're more interested in things like legal opinion and like getting to know like all of the ins and outs of Kingdom Studios and our entities and the history of Jewel, things like that. And as far as supply, like they all have to we have to have a money maker or that supplies the supply for all of those centralized exchange market maker. Sorry, that's the right term. So yeah, no concerns about who's holding, but definitely a lot of questions on their areas.
Much appreciated, Sunbear. Hubert, pretty easy one for you. If I have open orders on the bazaar and then add the master merchant power up after I've created those orders, does the discount apply, or do I need to cancel them and replace them?
Yeah, you would need to cancel and replace. And it works the opposite as well. So if you did have the power up and then it was canceled, any orders that were made during that time would still have that discount applied as well. It's just something in order to prevent issues with because we have to escrow the fees that people put in. We need those fees to be accurate, and so we have to be accurate to that moment, and so we can't really have it adjust to your changing situation.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Another question for you. So there's been a lot of talk again around the hero population, as well as a few posts on the talk site about it. I guess really anybody else that wants to chime in as well, but I figured we'd start off with Hubert because why not put him on the spot? I would love to hear thoughts about the future of the game and how we think an increasing number of heroes will impact the player experience.
Yeah, so we are of course aware of how many heroes are being summoned and are being thoughtful with making sure that the gameplay experience includes being able to do things with a lot of different heroes, or being able to at least batch activities and things like that. Of course, we are also talking about different ways to add new burn mechanics for heroes and other things like pets. But I guess we don't really have anything major to announce at the moment. And then there's also kind of been those ongoing discussions about adjustments to the summoning system itself, which would require a community vote if we did that. And I think we're still kind of at the same stance of needing enough community support for us to pursue that again, because we did have that RFC vote a while back. So yeah, I guess if there is still enough in the community that want us to revisit those topics again, we just need to see enough activity in the talk site kind of tied to that, and then we would look at that again. So that's another thing we can do to kind of help adjust how many heroes are being produced at once. I think with additional burn mechanics in the future, that should help as well. But we're also thinking about things in the future that we can do to just have massive amounts of heroes being used for something as well. So it's we design with the system we have, and we are aware of how things are set up at the moment, and are always looking to keep keep the gameplay kind of around how things are working in the ecosystem. So I think that hopefully answers the question.
I think so. Did anybody else want to add to that before I move on? All right. This one might also be for you, Hubert, as well. What do we think about having tiers for the power-ups like Quick Study and Rapid Renewal? My understanding is that they are referring to tier 1 gives the current benefit 15% XP, 3 seconds off cooldown or stamina regen, that is, and then have higher tiers that offer higher benefits.
I mean, yeah, that's possible, but I don't know that we would want to do that for those per se. It's something we can think about, but both of those were kind of set with kind of not wanting it to be like too game breaking to have them versus not. So if we increased even further, I think we'd have to look at the balance of other things and make sure it's still okay. So especially I think the stamina one, while it isn't super impactful at low levels, it will become much more impactful as we increase level caps and whatnot. I think even like level 20 heroes still see a pretty decent benefit from it now. So it's possible, but not likely in the short term, and midterm probably as well.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Is the team being strategic with timing of partnerships? There's been a lot of partnerships related to onboarding to onboarding players. These are not necessarily linked to any current feature releases. Yes, we are being strategic. I don't really know if I want to say a whole lot more than that yet. But yeah, no, we're definitely, we've talked about it a lot lately, but large focus on onboarding and making sure that it is very easy to get into the game. And those things need to be in place prior to drawing the attention of the people that we're trying to make it easier for. Otherwise, they don't do any good, because if they've already gone through the hard process, it's too late. And a lot of times, when you look at bounce rate, if somebody comes, looks, and they don't join because there's blockers and it's hard to get into it, they may not come and look again. But yes, we are being strategic, and I'm going to leave it at that unless anybody unmutes and overrules it. All right. Back to Hubert. Thoughts on using pets as some sort of summoning boost similar to stones to encourage hatching?
I wonder if that means like ritual sacrifice of pets kind of thing. It's kind of what it kind of sounds like. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I think we are talking about different things to do with burning pets. I don't know, like that's pretty dark if we're sacrificing pets and stuff. So I mean, we already do have dark summoning, which is also pretty dark. So I guess there's room in our universe for that. But I think some of the other things we've been talking about for pet burning might be more likely to occur. Just every time we change like the way summoning works, it does have a huge impact, and we do need to be careful about what we're doing with that. So I think maybe new mechanics might be safer and also perhaps more interesting as well, as it's just adding more things that you can do in the game. So I think that would be the direction we're going to go in, but that's not, things are always subject to change. So yeah.
So are you saying that you are not usually a fan of animal sacrifice?
Not usually, but especially your cute pets. That's poor blebs.
One more for you. Well, that's probably a lie. There's probably more than one, but at least one more. Thoughts on having quests gate kept by having pets?
Yeah, another interesting idea. I think in the future we may have various things that are gate kept by equipment or other things like pets. So I think that's definitely a possibility. Or content that it may not be a quest, but some other things that only will happen if you have certain conditions met. So yeah, I think we would like to do things along those lines. What they would be exactly is too early to say at this time, but we are thinking along those lines.
Very nice. Awesome. Let's see. Oh, one thing that we did not actually hang on. I'm gonna hold off on my own realization for a moment. But let's see. So Beetle dude, thoughts on changing the profession quest UI to do away with separate 0 and 10 quests and just have those automatically assigned according to the hero level, which also Hubert might have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, Hubert should probably talk first.
Yeah, I mean, in this current setup that we have right now, pre-travel, maybe that sort of thing makes sense, but it wouldn't make sense once we do get travel out and the access to those quests is actually tied to location. So I don't think we should be spending resources on something like that that would change and no longer work. So likely not, but I don't know, Beetle, if you want to say more.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I would just say, like, along with travel, will be different NPCs, not the same NPCs, having both versions. So yeah, in a couple ways, it'll probably not make sense once we get that in place. So yeah, agree with you there.
Awesome. I appreciate it, gentlemen. So that does it for our AMA questions for the week. But one thing that we did not talk about, and then I do have a random question for everybody. But one thing we forgot to talk about was Swipelux. So Swipelux is officially integrated. We talked about the US on ramps. Or wait, did we take that question? Or did I completely forget to take that question?
Forgot.
Huh. Yeah, no, I 100% went over that question. Wow, okay. My bad. See, that's the problem. I had connections in my brain, and then I no longer did. So we do have another AMA question. So recently, Swipelux was integrated as an on-ramp that currently services Europe and Asia. We've mentioned that there's a different one in progress for US users. Curious if this on-ramp would be for buying tokens, NFTs directly, or both. So gonna kind of answer this in a couple parts and then also let anybody else weigh in that wants to. So we are talking to multiple other on-ramps, including some with US coverage. We want to have options for players for their on-ramp services. So definitely stay tuned for more on that front. But as far as the second part of the question, being tokens, NFTs directly, or both, so for on-ramps, we are looking at tokens only, and then we are also looking separately at NFT checkout. So they have different requirements from like legal perspectives and all of that. So rather than kind of tying them into one service and saying this provider is both the on-ramp and the NFT checkout, we're looking at them as two different products because of those different legal requirements. Generally speaking, NFT checkout is easier to have on a global scale than an on-ramp is. So they're kind of two different topics. That doesn't necessarily mean that the same provider won't provide both, but they aren't necessarily tied together as products either. So I think I answered that. Also, very excited about Swipelux in general. That is the first on ramp to come live. They have been great to work with, and just really, really happy to see that come together and be available for some of our players, and then we will have more to service the rest. Sunbear or anybody else, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just also mention that that's an area that we really are excited about. Like, I'm excited to see us have some direct access for folks to our heroes to be able to do direct checkout. So definitely part of what we're looking for right now. And then also just say real quick, part of the process in when we establish connections to various teams that we go through, we really do our due diligence with these teams. We spend a lot of time with them in different ways, like not only looking at the business side and kind of negotiating out what those agreements look like and those signed contracts, and do our due diligence with who they are, where they're coming from, but also spend time on the technical side to make sure that things really match up. That's why we also spend time with a lot of different teams to like figure out what is the best fit, and really especially listen to our dev team, who they want us to be talking with and making potential agreements with. We send out questionnaires to assess, the fit with the technology and things like that. Before we even mention them here to the community, we really want to make sure it's all put together, because then it also takes time to build whatever it is that we've agreed upon, and then of course launch and then work with marketing and all that. So just wanted to show you a little bit of what that process looks like, why it takes so long.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Also, shout out to Beetle Dude and Typical for getting Swipelux implemented and all of the things coming that we know about that continue to put work on their plate. So, always appreciate you, all of you. So, last question, and then we will do some wrap up. And this is a question for everybody to weigh in on. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I wasn't ready for this. Go on.
Blasphemy.
We didn't talk about this.
I couldn't prepare you. I needed natural reactions.
I think it's not a sandwich, because a sandwich requires two discrete pieces of bread, but it could be classified as a hoagie. And that's a hill I am not willing to die on.
Huh. I mean, is a Subway sandwich a sandwich then? That's not two discrete pieces of bread.
Why doesn't Subway have a hot dog if it's a sandwich?
Well, by
I have
Beetle's
said my piece.
definition,
all
all
I
of
have
the
to
sandwiches
say.
are hot dogs. Like,
Yeah,
I think we need
correct.
to pause all development work until we figure this out.
yeah, I mean, submarine sandwiches are a thing. Anyway, that's been an ongoing debate in Discord. Hubert?
Yeah, I just Tango brought it up. I think if we say two discrete pieces of bread, it's just if the bread separates so that it is two now, then it is a sandwich. But until that point, it is not. It's like a piece of toast with a hot dog in it.
I think the hot dog needs to be cut in half as well. I think that needs to be part of the criteria.
So the hot dog becomes a sandwich, when an accident happens, basically.
Yeah, or if you're weird and use one of those other buns that are pre-separated, like a weirdo.
Magnus, I don't think I don't think you even spoke on this AMA, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, this is a rare AMA where I don't speak. Yeah, I also subscribe to the two discrete pieces worldview.
Yay!
Y'all are killing me.
I think I'm just trying to be controversial over here.
I just want to know how you view submarine sandwiches. Then, like, they're subs. They're a thing. They are sandwiches.
Hot dogs.
Okay, so they're also hot dogs. I mean, I at least respect the dedication to the definition.
This is an opinion that I have generated over the last minute and a half, so it will stand.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you all, as always. I mean, honestly, we are good to wrap up, but any final thoughts from anybody? I'll just say, as always, don't ape into broken mechanics. Thank you, everybody who's on the stage, in the audience, and listening later, and also submitting questions. Can't do these without questions. So make sure you keep the questions coming so we can keep answering them. Any final thoughts from anybody? And then we'll have Magnus bullish us since he got to just sit up here and not be forced into the spotlight.
I'll just say I hope everyone enjoys a Subway hot dog today. That's all, Matt. Back over to you, Megan.
Bullish.
Bullish. See y'all next week.
Bullish.
Bullish. Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.